a very low-scoring ball game. And so, maybe it'll be a grinded-out kind of game, and this was good for them to kind of go through one of those. But I don't know. I mean, I didn't like the offense today. I think you heard me sitting over here complaining about it. There was a lot of standing, a lot of stagnant, no movement, no ball reversal, a lot of fake screens where they're slipping the screens, going to the basket, and like I could probably find 5 possible really good screens throughout the whole basketball game today. I mean, maybe 5. And there should be 5 in a possession.
When you played this game or these games, this post-Thanksgiving in between students coming back, it was probably in a tournament back then, Indiana Classic.
Yeah, it was a Classic or Indiana Classic.
If it was a single game, what were you guys like? Do you remember having to go through that, and how hard was it to get up?
Yeah, trust me, there's a lot of games, and I think that's why it's much easier now to sit back and look at it. We would have games just like this where we might win by 20 points, and Coach Knight would be going crazy at us and screaming and yelling, and we're like, come on, give us a break or whatever. But then you kind of get it. I mean, you kind of understand. Now I understand it definitely much more than I did then. And the players, I think, today probably, I think they played a little bit like that, to be honest with you. I think there was a lot of just kind of let's get through this game, let's get to the next one. And it's difficult. It's difficult to get yourself up and get excited about playing in a day where, it's rivalry day. It's bucket day. Everybody's talking about football. Everybody's talking about Ohio State, Michigan. Everybody's talking about that. No one today, there's no college basketball game that's on today that anybody really cares about other than the people from that particular school. Now, there was this week. I mean, there were some great tournament games. Michigan,
they were amazing.
Michigan had a fantastic
I had
week.
so much fun watching those games.
I did too. But today, nothing. Today was all about college football. And so that even makes it more difficult.
Absolutely.
No students in town to cheer at the game. I mean, it's just many factors.
Another game without Rob Finnessy. We mentioned it earlier, but now they're going in to play Florida State on Tuesday. You kind of want to be well-armed, and not having your point guard, not exactly the situation you want to be in.
I mean, there's no secret. We all know Indiana is as secretive a school about injuries as there is in the country. And that's all the way from the doctors to the trainers to the coaches to the rest of the players. Like, they just are so close to the vest on how healthy or how injured a certain player is at any point in time. And so we literally don't know if it's, because they've talked about it being a rib or abdominal injury or something in here, that's something you don't want to strain. So I hope that they're just keeping him out until Tuesday. Tuesday things really start for real. And I do think they could probably win Tuesday without Rob Finnessy. I think it'll be much more difficult.
Yeah, it'd be nice if Purdue would have played Florida State last night, but we'd have something more that we could talk about in regards to Florida State and previewing them.
I mean, Florida State played a very slow-paced game with Tennessee yesterday, and they came out on top. And they kind of led throughout that whole ball game. It wasn't like it was a dramatic comeback and they threw some shots down. That was probably a 6-point lead to 6-point deficit throughout the entire game. Both teams just kind of going back and forth, and no one ever got way out in front, I don't think. And Florida State just held them off. And Tennessee's a good team. I mean, Tennessee's a ranked team. They're a good team.
Does Florida State want to keep the tempo down? Is that the game?
They generally are. That's the way they generally play. They like to, kind of walk it down the floor and play that half court. Now, if you watch most of the highlights in the baskets they scored, they're transition. But we probably saw every transition basket they had on the highlights, and that was probably 3 or 4. So they're a team that doesn't play. You look at their overall scoring, and they're a team that doesn't score. They're probably in the 60s for the majority of the ball games they ever play.
How's that going to clash when you've got a team like Indiana, who their goal is to push the tempo? Archie wants them getting down the floor, get down in position, and try to get a quick shot.
I still think. That should be Indiana's goal and what they're trying to accomplish. I mean, Indiana will be trying to push it. I think Florida State will be trying to, I wouldn't say slow it down. With the shot clock, it's very difficult to slow it down anymore. But I do think,
but deliberate.
They'll be trying to get it inside. They've got some big bodies. The real difference is going to be Trace Jackson Davis. You can't ask for any more than you've gotten out of him so far to start this season. But we're also getting ready to see him play much bigger bodies than he's played all season long. And this is a game that, Indiana is for sure, they're going to get tested more than they have throughout the whole season, for sure.
And speaking of that, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but the Big Ten overall, my gosh, did they just take a step up this past week.
Yeah.
The games we saw Michigan just obliterate 2 top 10 teams in North Carolina and Gonzaga, and I mean obliterate. They had North Carolina down, I think it was 60-36 at one point, and they end up beating Gonzaga by 18. Gonzaga has not been beaten like that by anybody in quite a while.
And Gonzaga's got a real different type of team. Like, Gonzaga's always had some athletic guys and probably a big guy that can step out and shoot, do different things. And they've had a good scorer. They've got a team right now, they try to pound it inside. This is like old school Bob Knight type team. They are trying to pound it inside, and they're trying to score all their baskets in the lane. And Michigan, I thought that was going to be a very difficult game for Michigan to win. And they controlled that game throughout. It was impressive. But, Purdue comes away beating a very good VCU team yesterday.
Iowa beat Texas Tech the other night.
Yeah, right. It's just one
the
after
Big Ten
another.
is going to be another bloodbath. I thought it was going to be weak this year. I didn't think it's going to have as much depth and strength. Man, they have sure changed my mind in a hurry. They've looked better in this preseason than they may have looked last year.
I agree.
And they were pretty good last year, but they are deep this year. We haven't even talked about an Illinois team. Yeah, they had their ups and downs, but man, they've got talent. I don't care. They've got that Desoimu, whatever his name is, 7-footer. He is just going to be tough to deal with.
Yep.
So many teams have. Michigan is gigantic, by the way. They got some big guys, Teskey and those guys.
Yep.
But
there's
a lot of
they've
teams.
got veterans. Like, that's the thing that I just cannot understand. And my feeling on rankings and ranking of players and recruits and also in ranking of teams, especially preseason. It's very difficult. But you look at the roster that Michigan has, how in the world could they not have been ranked? Like it just...
Well, a coaching change. Anytime you have a coaching change, except for if you're at Ohio State, apparently, there's a lot of wondering of what's going on. And I think a lot of people, they didn't know how he was going to do coming into his first season as a collegiate coach.
But every kid on the floor...
Phil Martelli's doing the coaching anyway.
Every kid on the floor played last year. They've just got veterans who have played in some big games and won some big games. And they're all back, and they're all good. I'm shocked. They're going to go from being unranked to being ranked 10th or 12th. I don't see how they could.
Getting back to today's game, anything stand out? Is there anything you can pick out of this game? It was just a very pedestrian.
You mean positively? You mean anything I could find positive? I could find a lot. I found a lot of negative already. I'm telling you, the offense was terrible. It was terrible to watch.
Legit positive, though. Not just not being nice. Legit. So, yeah, that was a nice this or nice that, but not just because it was against South Dakota State. I didn't. It just looked like a very pedestrian, let's go through the motions and play this game and get out of here.
I hope I'm not one game early in saying it, but I think Trace Jackson Davis, we've belabored that point for 7 games now, but I am overly impressed with him. I will be really excited. He's going to play against some big bodies on Tuesday night, and I'm excited to see how he does against that. And I'm excited to see it because I truly believe his game will hold up. I believe his game will transfer to that very well.
I think that's his 4th double of the season out of 7.
Keep track of him, but
here's the thing. Yeah, I know that they haven't played anybody, but guess what? Everybody always doesn't play anybody in the beginning, and I don't remember anybody getting 4 double-doubles last year to start the season. I don't care who they're playing against.
He has overachieved in my book, and I had high expectations, as everyone did. But he's even exceeded those, and I don't know that you could be a whole lot happier with where he is. Now, I hope I'm not a game early in saying that, and I don't think I am, but I hope.
Not necessarily a game early, but when conference play rolls around
this
soon,
next month is going to be, look.
And it's actually set up well for him, I think, schedule-wise. They don't have Michigan in December. They don't have any of these tough tests.
Wisconsin, at Wisconsin, and Nebraska at home. That's 2 games. At Wisconsin's always going to be tough because they're fundamentally sound and they're coached well. But it's a game you should win based on looking at it on paper right now. But let's look at this, all right? We're grown adults. Everybody on this page that's Facebooking, texting us is grown adults. and we're tired of watching these games. So imagine how the players are playing them. I mean, I'm tired of watching the South Dakota States of the world. I'm ready to see Florida State and UConn and Nebraska and Wisconsin, and I'm ready to see these good games, these good teams, and how we do against them. And so, I mean, we've got to give the guys a little bit of leeway, I think, in this. But the offense was stagnant. The offense stood still way too much. It was boring to watch. It was painful to watch, and I'm glad it's over.
Well, we got one coming up. But before I forget, you're listening to After the Game with Todd and Leary, live from Yogi's Bar and Grill here in Bloomington, Indiana, taking on South Dakota State today. The Jackrabbits, they win that game 64-50. Not a very high-scoring game for Indiana. Indiana, as you mentioned, second highest-scoring team in the country, I think, at 90 points a game. Far off of that total today.
And we've been saying all along, that's a factor of who you're playing. And
sleepwalking.
Yeah, they're playing people that they're going to score easier against. Now, all that stops. And no, I expect them to score more than 64 points against Florida State. I mean, I hope so. If they don't, it's going to be tough to win.
Is this a day that you're probably lucky to schedule as South Dakota State? Just because of coming out of the...
That's why it's there. I mean, that's why it is what it is. And so, but like I said, we are tired of it. I mean, we're tired of watching those games. We're tired of talking about teams and kids we've never heard of.
Where do you go from here at a game like this, what we saw, and now they've got to ramp it up. There's no excuses. It's just Tuesday. Florida State's going to come here, and they're not coming to lose 64-50.
Right.
They're not coming just to show up. They're not going to come to walk around Simon Scott.
They're not going to be awed by. They play in Cameron Indoor Stadium. They play in Chapel Hill. They play in the biggest, nicest arenas that there are in the country and the most difficult places to play. So they're not going to walk in here and be awed. Now, they've probably never played in Assembly Hall before, and they've probably all seen Assembly Hall on TV since they were kids, as we all have. And so, yeah, they're going to walk in, and it's going to be a place they want to go into and win. They don't have the opportunity to come play here all the time. Just like when Indiana goes and plays, Duke at Cameron Indoor. That's a special trip. Like, you walk in there, you look at it a little different. But at the end of the day, once the game starts, you got 10,000, 15,000 people cheering just like you do at every other game they go to.
Trace Jackson-Davis, when this competition gets elevated now, he's done very well. We've talked about. He's got 4 double-doubles in 7 games against lesser competition. But still, when you're a freshman, that's not really lesser competition. You're playing against guys who are juniors, seniors, who have been out of high school for 2 or 3 years. So to him, it's not a lot lesser in competition yet.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not. You're exactly right. But, when you look at the types of players that each one of these Indiana kids are, I think his game transitions the easiest to the tougher competition. I think his type of game. Now, he's going to – do I expect him to have 19 and 14? Probably not. But, I mean, if he's getting double-doubles, I don't care if it's 10 and 10. We'll take it for sure right now. It's going to be tougher. I mean, he's not going to have 19 and 14.
And the expectations can't be too high for him, but someone who does have to perform at that level, at a consistent level, is going to have to be Justin Smith, the only experienced guy down there. Of course, Joey Brunk is got some experience as well, but he hasn't played as much as these guys have, and he definitely hasn't played in this system as much as they have, and this is Justin Smith's 3rd year in Archie's system. So all that stuff should be worked out.
It should, no doubt about it. And when you look at, Justin Smith can be, as much as I pick on him and as much as I am negative about him shooting 3-pointers, I'm very high on the rest of his game. And his athleticism, you can look at certain guys and you could say they're athletic. Al Durham is athletic. Certain guys are athletic, but Justin Smith's a whole nother level. He's a different type athletic, and there's not that many guys in the country that are that way. And he's got skill to go along with it. So he can be a difference changer. He can be a game changer. He can make it very difficult on the other teams. He's got the ability to be able to be a severe difference maker for Indiana's benefit. Now, he's got a motor that needs to be ramped up a little bit. He needs to play, I think, at a little higher pace and make his focus has got to be on rebounding. And if it is, he'll play in the NBA like Juwan Morgan. If he doesn't, He won't. He'll play in Europe.
I didn't get to see this game as intently as I would like to with all that was going on, the football game going to overtime and all that. But as I looked through the stats, something that I don't want to say concerning, but disappointing, was Joey Brunk's outing today, because he's been pretty solid so far. But in a game today, he scores 1 point in 20 minutes, and he has 4 rebounds.
It only takes one shot, yeah. I mean, he just wasn't involved in the offense. And you know, let's not read too much into this game. You know what it is. I mean, let's look at it this way.
I'm trying to find something.
I know. Hey, we're all the same way, but let's not BS everybody. I mean, everybody kind of feels the same way about it. I wasn't excited to watch this game today. I was more excited to watch football. I wanted to see the bucket game. I wanted to see Ohio State, Michigan. I want to see Roll Tide up there.
How hard, and I don't know, you may have been in this position when you played, but today, perfect example. You got Indiana playing in the bucket game at noon. You know everybody's excited about that. You got all these other big-time football games going on that everybody's excited about, that hell, you probably are excited about, want to see as a player.
For sure.
But you got to go out and you got to play this game that means nothing, that's against no one, that is going to take no effort, and it's post-Thanksgiving. All this stuff, how hard is it to play that game?
It is difficult. There's no doubt. I mean, so think about this schedule. So this morning, the guys probably got together and had, so this is a 4 o'clock game. They probably had a shoot around at 10:30 or 11, okay? And then they probably had a walkthrough right after that. And then they probably ate. And then I'm sure they ate at 12:30. So from then on, they probably have about 45 downtime minutes. So you're going to go eat, and then they're going to go home, and then they got to be back here back in the gym by 2 o'clock. So there's not a whole lot of time. All the hoopla, all the hype is on college football. I want to see it. You want to see it. Trust me, during basketball season in the middle of January, once all the bowls are over, the football players will be watching basketball games. I mean, that's what we're an athlete. You're an athlete. You get excited about watching sports. I mean, it's just what you want to do. And so they didn't have that opportunity today. Now, I'm not making excuses for anyone. That's their job. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what they're here for, and that's why they have scholarships, and that's why they don't have to pay to go to school. But they're also 20-year-old kids, so let's not BS each other and act like it's not a factor in it. It is a factor in it. I mean, it is their day. Their day was disrupted by having to play South Dakota State. I mean, I'm being a jackass by saying that, but
Jackrabbit.
Yeah, but I mean, their day is interrupted in what they want to do by having to play a game. Now, I should take a beating for saying that, because yes, that's BS. Like, they are basically paid to play.
Oh boy!
But you know what I mean, though. I mean, they get scholarships. They get that to go out there and perform, and that's what you're supposed to do, and they do. But let's also not kid each other. Think about it. Think about Thanksgiving Day when everyone ate and was full and laying back on the couch watching football games. You know what they did? And late in the afternoon, they went to practice. I mean, no one would have wanted to do that when ladies are lining up to go shopping at 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah, I was thinking I could just tell anybody that's listening, think about this. Yesterday, or Thursday even maybe, but yesterday, especially if you didn't have to work, you're enjoying that day off. What are you wanting to do? Probably nothing. Probably absolutely nothing, and they don't have that luxury.
Think about this.
Dig the ditch.
So you and I mean, we're competitive people. Like, we want our daily show every day to be a little bit better, and better than it was the day before.
1%.
We want it to be just a little bit better. Well, you know what? Friday, I mean, I had turkey brain. There's no doubt about it. I get up in the morning to do that show in the morning. Yes, I mean. Truly, like, I'm sitting there, I'm trying to think of people's names. I'm like, I couldn't think of my mom's name. I mean, I'm sitting there, you're deadhead. I mean, you're not as sharp as you would want to be. And it's because we didn't prepare probably quite as well. Everybody's fat and sassy from eating all day on Thursday. It's just different. I'm not trying to make excuses for it. I'm stating the facts of, you want to know why they probably played the way they did today and only scored for 64 points? Because it's 2 days after Thanksgiving and they're playing South Dakota State. That's my answer.
We appreciate everybody joining us so far, listening to us. We're coming to you live from Yogi's Bar and Grill here in Bloomington after the game with Todd Leary as the Indiana Hoosiers took on the South Dakota State Jackrabbits today, winning that game with ease, 64-50. Now you've got to put this behind, and you've got a big-time game. You can't just ease into the week. You got a game Tuesday, and not only do you have a game, you've got your biggest challenge thus far.
Yeah, and truly, like, that won't be an issue. You know, here's what's going to happen.
Sunday, all the students are going to come back in town. Tuesday, this game's going to be on ESPN. You know, it's the challenge of ACC Big Ten Challenge, so it's all going to be talked about all Monday and all Tuesday. ESPN will be advertising it. The students will show up early. It's an ACC team. They're gonna be loud and obnoxious, and that's great. That's going to get the players as excited as they need to be, and the players will be more excited about it. And you know, Tuesday will be no issue. Today will be zero factor. And now, I'm giving you the reality of the situation. Would my coaching staff that I played for accepted that as an excuse? No, not a chance in hell.
But you all were preconditioned.
But it doesn't mean we reacted any differently. Now, you're taught to not accept that. I'm sure Archie Miller is you know, I'm sure he came in at halftime and said, get your head out of your butt. You know, we're playing terrible. Like, you still have to try to get yourself amped up. At the end of the day, it's South Dakota State 2 days after Thanksgiving, and that's all the excuse you really need. I mean, once you get to Tuesday, there will be none of this lull. There'll be none of this BS that everyone had to get themselves jacked up for the game on Tuesday.
Hey, Stephanie, Robert says he needs to be on one of our shows. Well, come on up, Robert. I know you're down there in Henderson or Evansville, so come on up and see us.
And we got some shows that'll be. We got some away games that will be doing some
roadie, hit
broadcasts from.
Hit the road. Okay, Tuesday night they take on Florida State. We've been talking about that, and we talked about Florida when you saw Florida State the other night. They didn't play with a lot of pace. Is that a danger Indiana can fall into? Because we've seen them. I don't want to call them Jekyll and Hyde, but there was one game where you could tell that they are really just making a point of emphasis, push the pace. And then I've seen other games, and I'm not even counting today, where not so much.
Yeah,
are they in danger of falling into that trap?
I think it's always going to be push the pace. I mean, I think that's going to always be the goal, and that's what they're trying to accomplish. Now, 90 points a game is not attainable. So let's eliminate that from the thought process. None of the stats mean anything right now, other than we've got a team that we feel like pushes the ball at a pretty good pace and doesn't turn it over that much, and so they value the basketball and they get pretty good shots, and you can tell what they're trying to accomplish. They try to get the ball into Trace Jackson Davis's hands. They try to get the ball in Devontae Green's hands. Al Durham is been as steady a player as I think we could ever ask for out of him. I mean, he has just been rock solid. You've got four guys in there that I think you're going to be able to count on game after game after game. Now, they need two other guys to step up and get some big time production out of a couple of other people.
The one thing Al Franklin.
I do that all the time. I do this with those two guys. I do it all the time.
Well, plus they're sitting right on top of each other on the stat sheet. Armand Franklin, again, freshman, understand all that. His shooting has been a little suspect this year, and I guess that's something you can probably expect from a freshman as he tries to find his sea legs, but his shooting has not been quite stellar. I mean, he had a couple games where he did shoot the ball well, but there's been more often than not a 1-for-6 night has been the case.
Excuse me. Choked me up there, but yeah, I mean, I don't think, I think he looked as comfortable in game one offensively as he did in game 7 here today. Like, I don't think he's going to be a real offensive producer for Indiana. Now, generally takes care of the basketball for the most part. He did have 3 turnovers today. When you go down the stat sheet, it's hard to find a guy that didn't have multiple turnovers today. They didn't take care of the basketball very well. 19 turnovers in a game that was not played flying up and down the court. So, that was an issue. But, you look at Armand Franklin as a freshman and his body, with his length and his arms and his defensive prowess. I mean, this is a guy who can help this basketball team without stuff in the stat sheet. And I think that's really what they're going to want out of him. I think that's what they're going to get out of him.
Indiana women's basketball team currently playing Washington State down in, where are they, Virgin Islands, Paradise Jam.
Yep.
Update on that score. Jam? Yeah, 45-28, halftime score. Wow. So they're picking right up where they left off and beating number 5 South Carolina. They had a setback with Baylor, but man, that's a response you love to see.
Yeah,
that is.
But it's not a setback with Baylor. They played a tough team. and they lost. So I guess you're looking at that as a setback.
Any loss is a loss.
Sure.
But that's the response you want to see coming back from any loss. 45-28, that's nice at halftime.
Yeah, I mean 45 points, they're on pace for 90 points.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, they're getting after it.
Be glad the men didn't play the women today, because
I'm telling you. Hey, because they probably outshoot them from a percentage standpoint. But they've got a tough game coming up, I think. Miami, Florida next.
It is.
Ranked 16th or something like that next week. So their schedule continues to stay tough. But, man, I'm going to be very interested to see what happens to them in the polls. They should undoubtedly be in the top 15 this week as they have had an outstanding week down in the Virgin Islands. Congratulations to them. I don't want to forget about them. But then Baylor takes on South Carolina later, it looks like.
Yeah, Wednesday they play Miami, Florida, who's ranked 19th.
Then they open up Big Ten season against Michigan State, who's ranked 15th.
They keep it trucking.
So they've got other games, but congratulations to them as they keep that rolling, man. That program is on fire. They could challenge for the Big Ten championship for the women's side this year. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Big Ten championship, one that a lot of people early in the season thought was probably going to be Michigan State. You throw in Ohio State, maybe Maryland, and then that was about it. Everything else after that was a question mark. Man, Michigan just
stuck that foot right and kicked that door right down, didn't they?
Michigan may be the best team in the conference right now. They've got the best resume, bar none, in the
country.
Right,
probably in the country.
So, and you asked me the other day about where I thought the rankings. And I thought, they'll jump in there at 17. Well, not after back-to-back wins like that.
Not after the Gonzaga win.
They should be in the top 5, maybe. I mean, I don't know how you don't put them in the top 5.
I don't think they'll get that high because the top 5 probably won't lose, so they probably won't do that. But they should get to the top 10.
But everybody in the top 5 has lost to somebody crazy like Stephen F. Austin or Evansville.
But that's not going to happen. You know that.
Yeah, who knows? We'll see. But
they should get to the top 10. I'm the one that told you on Friday. You told me you thought that they would be like 17, and
I did.
That was before they beat Gonzaga.
Right.
But I mean, I don't see how. I mean, North Carolina is 6th right now, and they beat the pants off of them. Virginia's not going to move. Gonzaga's number 8, so they're going to move in front of both of them because they beat them so convincingly. I mean, then you got Kentucky at 9 and Ohio State at 10. I mean, I don't see how they don't bump up there in that 8 through 12 range.
All those teams we talked about vying for the Big Ten championship, Illinois and Iowa, who beat Texas Tech, Michigan, Ohio State. One team that we didn't talk about and mention, Indiana.
Yeah.
Indiana. And everybody that thinks that has hopes for them being that upper echelon, man, I don't want to be negative, but golly.
Yeah, but we're not jumping out saying hey, they're 7-0. They're gonna fight for this Big Ten championship. We're also not saying they're not, because a week from now they could have 2 really, really good wins. This is a situation that I think you look at it and you're like, now they've worked all the kinks out. They've had ample opportunity to get better and gel as a team and do all that. Now, the injuries suck, and they haven't all been able to play together. We all know that. Every team deals with that, so excuses out the window. Now they play good teams, and in 2 weeks from now, we'll either say Indiana is the second tier, they're behind those top 4 or 5, and they're in that 5 through 8 range, or that top 4 is now top 5, and they've got a chance to fight for it up there, because just in what we're talking about, you talk about Michigan, Michigan State, Maryland, Ohio State, Iowa. Iowa's been beaten by a couple of people too, but they've all shown the ability to beat good teams. You put all of those up there, they're all going to beat each other up, no doubt about it. I mean, this is one of those years the winner of the Big Ten might easily have 5 losses, which is crazy.
Doesn't happen very often.
Crazy.
Doesn't happen very often. So, yeah, it's going to be a challenging.
It's going to be a battle. You're not going to be expected to go, win 18 of your 20 games in order to win the Big Ten. I think 16-4 very easily might win the Big Ten.
And the Florida State game is going to be a great place to look. But it's the UConn game is the one I'm interested in, because a couple things. Number one, it's basically a road game. That's not a neutral site. That's a road game, because you're playing UConn at Madison Square Garden. Yeah, there's going to be nothing but Connecticut people up there. But that's going to be, not only that, they're a good team. They're well coached. They're playing well. So that is going to be a hell of a challenge for Indiana. And if they can get past that test, that's going to say a lot about them. I expect them to get past Florida State. They've got them at home. It's early, and they should, as what they've been playing. They definitely should handle that challenge. The UConn game is going to be difficult.
And UConn's good. I mean, you put all those factors into it. Yeah, Madison Square Garden, Jimmy V, it's a big game. Going to be more Connecticut fans. I don't know if there'll be Connecticut fans. There'll be more people against Indiana than there are for.
Well, IU does have a great,
IU has a great alumni association in New York. No doubt about it. But, you know, Indiana's one of how many teams are going to be there? 4, 8, whatever it is. I mean, so they get 25% of the tickets, and the other 75% is not going to be rooting for Indiana. We're fully aware of that. So that's fine. Duke would have the same situation. North Carolina would have the same situation. Nobody roots for them if you're not an alumni or a fan of them. So that's just fine, and that's what it is. But you know, that's a game. That's going to be not only you take those factors of everything that Indiana's going to battle with. That UConn's good. They're well coached. Danny Hurley's got those guys playing great. Is this year 2 for him there? Is this year 1 or 2?
It's 2, I think.
Yeah, I mean, whatever it is, 1 or 2, regardless, he's got them playing well.
I think they may be the second best team up there behind Louisville, who's going to be probably the new number 1 team this week.
Yeah, I mean, number 1, Schmun, none of that matters right now. I mean, give that a month, and then we'll know. Once conference play gets 6 or 7 games into it, then the real rankings will matter.
We appreciate everybody joining us tonight here from Yogi's Bar and Grill in Bloomington. Indiana played South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits. They had a Purdue game today. They beat Purdue for the Old Oaken Bucket, getting that win in football to go to 8 wins on the season, 8-4. Best record they've had since 1993, and now they will await word on where they're going to go bowling, where we're going bowling. I'm hoping for Florida, man.
Man, I was watching the Georgia game earlier today, and those guys were playing in short sleeves in 70-degree weather, and
like those guys up in Wisconsin or up in Minnesota.
Yeah, no, they're not doing that.
There's a driving rain
ended
or a
that game up there.
snowstorm.
Wisconsin ended any doubt about who's going to win that
Wisconsin's leading 38-17 with 5:05 in the fourth quarter. So that game looks like
that game's over. That game is over.
So it's going to be Wisconsin playing Ohio State next Saturday in Indianapolis for the Big Ten championship. The winner of that game obviously headed to the college football playoffs. I've heard them talk that no matter if Ohio State were to lose in that game, that they probably have done enough to stay in. Wisconsin, I don't think even if they win, they can get in.
No.
Because of the loss to Illinois, for one thing. But they've played pretty well.
Ohio State and LSU are not moving out of that top 4 no matter what.
No.
I mean, that's Georgia could play their way in. Wisconsin can't. No chance.
This may have implications on where Indiana ends up in a bowl, because Minnesota is a team that hasn't been to any of these big bowls of late either. They haven't been to the Citrus Bowl. They haven't been to the Outback Bowl. And the hope was they were going to win that division, and they'd go to the Rose Bowl and they'd be out there. And then Wisconsin and Penn State and these other 3 teams that can't play in some of these bowls because they played in it recently. Well, that's not going to be the case now, because now it looks like you're going to have a Minnesota team that probably may end up in the Citrus Bowl, which may then open up things for maybe a Michigan. Who knows? We'll find out in a week. But I'm thinking Indiana goes to the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville, but we'll find out for certain later on. But definitely I'm thinking Florida. The worst case is Nashville to the Music City Bowl. There's so many people that want to argue about the Red Box Bowl and all that crap.
Well, but
that's not happening. They're not going to Detroit.
Watching the short sleeves today in 70-degree weather, they could keep the Music City Bowl. Let's head to the Gator Bowl.
I want to head to Jacksonville. I definitely want to. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I know it's even the fans, man. It's a post-Thanksgiving tryptophan hangover.
No doubt.
For everybody.
I've had turkey brain since Thursday noon.
Bill says, with the bucket win today, what is up with the Governor's Cup? Oh, I don't know. Oh, I thought you meant the Governor's Cup. That's Louisville, Kentucky, what they played for. Wonder who won that game. Kentucky was leading last I saw, but I haven't checked the score on that.
Kentucky and Louisville?
Football.
Kentucky beat the
crap out of them.
Dog crap
Man,
out of
really.
Badly.
Well, there's that. So, and you never know. There's the outside shot of playing Kentucky in the Music City Bowl. Man, that would be a riot. That don't mean it would be funny. I mean, there would be literally be a riot.
Pick it up and move the Music City to Jacksonville or Orlando or somewhere, that'd be awesome. That'd be my number one pick.
Just play on the beach. Let's just play on the beach. They used to run the Daytona 500 on the beach. Let's just move it to the beach.
Anything warm, I'm in.
Well, we've got more to come to you on Monday. We're back on the air for our normal daily show at 9 a.m. You can join us live, of course. Reach us on Indiana Sports Beat, or if you're in Evansville, WREF 97.7, or in Southern Indiana, near Tell City, WBRO 89.9. Soon to be on some other stations we can't mention yet, but we're getting close to that being the case. But you can always find us at IndianaSportsBeat.com. You can find us on the Daily Hoosier. You can find, and if you want to listen to it as a podcast when we rebroadcast it, anywhere you listen to a podcast, we should be there. We're on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google, Spotify, all that stuff. So you should be able to find us there. But that's pretty much going to wrap it up. Any parting words?
Looking forward to exciting games. I mean, Monday.
Looking forward to these games getting exciting.
Yeah.
So we have more to talk about.
Right.
Let me tell you, it's difficult.
We said it. We're adults. I'm tired of talking about South Dakota states of the world. Troy. I'm tired.
There's always so much because there's not. You're doing the same thing. You're getting the same performances from the same guys in the same way because they can't be stopped. And
we're basketball people. We love basketball. Turn on, I think it's CBSSN in 10 minutes and watch Florida State. Scout out Florida State. You look at that team. And I don't think anyone's going to walk away from there and go, that would not be a quality win. That'd be a quality win for Indiana.
Yeah, that's your homework. Watch the Florida State game, and then you'll have something to talk about with us on Tuesday when we're coming to you back again after the Indiana
You'll see that we're not BSing you when I tell you that's a good win if Indiana comes away with that one on Tuesday.
Absolutely. I think everybody knows that. They beat Florida already. But we'll be back Monday morning on the Daily Show, Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Don Fisher, of course, joins us each and every Monday. Also have Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier with us on Mondays as well. So we got all that going on. So we appreciate everybody joining us. I want to thank the Finney Hospitality Group, Nathan Finney, Chris Martin, everybody here that's been as helpful as always. Place is packed as it usually is, and I can't wait. Alabama leading Auburn 44-40 with how much time left?
13 minutes, the fourth quarter. Just started.
We got all kind of time.
They're going to score.
We're going to go watch the Iron Bowl, man.
They're going to score 100 in that one.
They might just score 100 in that. Bill Evans, between IU and Purdue, points are given for each sport, yeah. We'll have to find that on Monday, but, yeah, I have no idea where that stuff is.
IU will win by end of the year, just give it.
Perfect. Hey, thanks again, everybody, for joining us here on After Game with Todd Leary live from Yogi's Bar and Grill in Bloomington. We appreciate you. Hope you have a great rest of your Thanksgiving holiday weekend. Hope it's been fun and safe so far and had a great time with family and all that. For Todd Leary, I'm Jim Coyle, and until Monday, I will see you on the radio.